So today I want to show you a few modules that are based on the piano roll workflow, very similar to a piano roll in a DAW where you can visually enter notes and sequences. And I want to start with the piano roll module from RCM, this one here. I have it already connected to the clock. Right, I can choose how many bars or beats I want, right? I will stay with 4 in this case. How many divisions or the clock resolution per bar, right? How many steps? Again, I will stay with 4 in this case. And then how many measures, right? We can have up to 16 measures. If I change this to 2, for example, you see now we have 1 and it goes to the second one. Again, just for this example, I will stay with 1 measure. Now I can start adding notes just with the mouse, right? I can add and drag for longer notes. If I click again, it will delete the notes. If you are using the retrigger output also, if you're using an envelope with retrigger, with the right click, you can turn on and off the trigger, right? So you can also control this, right? And then just adding notes, again, just like on a piano roll, maybe something like this. Right, and we have a sequence. We can also add a velocity. In this case, it's sequencing the FM operator with velocity on the feedback and level. If I hold Shift, I can drag to change the velocity. Right, so you can also have velocity per step, right, which is also quite nice. Then I can add more patterns. So I can copy this pattern in the right-click menu, copy pattern, move to the second pattern, and then paste this and make some changes. So let's say, in this case, I would like to have, let's say, something like this. Right, and maybe here, again with velocity changes. Right, again, copy this, have another pattern, another variation. Right, in this case, let's go here also with a few notes. I can just delete this here just by clicking on it and then have something like this. Right, and then here, let's go down. Right, and then here again down. Right, something like this, and again some velocity changes. Right, so we have 3 patterns. Right, and actually the third pattern, you know what we can do? We can also have a different number of steps. So instead of 4 steps, we can have 5 steps, right? So now we have, again, a bit more variation, that we can do something like this. Right? Right, so we have 1 pattern with a different number of steps. And now we can sequence this with another piano roll module. Right, this makes it much easier because we have here the end of pattern output that I can use as a clock for the second piano roll here. I will also use the reset so everything will be in sync. Right, so now every time the pattern ends with the main piano roll, it will advance 1 step on the second piano roll. In this case, I will have just 1 bar or 1 beat, so we have 4 steps. Right, and now the volt per octave from the second piano roll will go to the pattern input of the first piano roll. This works with volt per octave. C4 is pattern 1, C sharp 4 is pattern 2, and so on and so forth. So I can have 1, 2, 1, 3. Right, now it's changing. so now we have a whole sequence going, a chain of patterns, if you will. Right, of course you can build whole chains and arrangements like this. This is just a simple example. There is one important thing to know when sequencing patterns with another piano roll module. So now if I stop everything for a second and I start it again, you see the second piano roll starts from 0 and then it goes into 1. To fix this, in the right-click menu, for the piano roll that you are using to sequence the patterns, change it to driver mode. And now when I stop it and start it again, you see already it starts always on step 1. Right, so like this, when you reset things, always you will start with step 1 and you will have no issues. Now, another thing we can do here, if I disconnect for a second the second piano roll here, right, we can also record external sequences, which is quite interesting because you can record random sequences just like I'm going to do here, and then arrange them in patterns or arrange the notes and so on and so forth. So we have an external volt per octave input, we have an external gate input, and even velocity. Right, already we hear the random sequence. Right, and we have a record input that I can just trigger, and you will see here it will change to pre-recording and then it will start recording. Right, and now it will start recording the notes and velocity. Right, I can do this again because the notes are a bit weird. Not weird, but oh, this is better. Right, and now disconnect your sequence, external sequence, and you have this recorded. Right, of course there are more octaves here that you can use, right? But like this you can also record external sequences and edit them and chain them and so on and so forth. And there is one disadvantage here with this piano roll, it's not polyphonic, so you can only sequence one voice at a time. But again, it's still a very handy sequencer to have. The next module I want to show you is the Seq++ from Squinky Labs. In this case, we can even edit things with the keyboard. So I'm going to run this. You can choose either scroll on or off. If I turn it off, and you can see it says here, click in editor to get focus. I click it, and then I can just move with my keyboard. Right, you can see here the notes. You can see where you are in the sequence. Right, and again, it's a sort of a piano roll. Now, there are a few ways of entering notes. There's a whole manual with all the different shortcuts. But for example, I can have, with enter, I can just enter 16th notes in this case. Or I can have, it's already running, by the way. Or with Q, for example, I can add quarter notes. Or with W, I can have whole notes. Right, and like this, you can continue and right, and add notes. You can also change the length, right? You can have longer sequences if you want. Right, now in this case, this sequencer is also polyphonic, and there is a really nice feature here. So if I change this to polyphony of let's say 3, right, first of all I can add more notes. So for example, if here I want to have a quarter note of this here, and here maybe let's say, I don't know, maybe something like this. Right, so already it will play polyphonically, but another really cool thing is that you can create triads. If you right-click a note, you see you have all sorts of different options. You can change the grid, snap to grid, all sorts of different things, and then you can also reverse pitch, chop the notes, and make triads. If you click this, you can choose all the different options, click OK, and you have a chord. And of course, you can also change things. So for example, again, with the keyboard, I can change the octave. Also with the mouse, you can edit things. So for example, if I hold at the beginning, I can shift it, right? I can move it around. At the middle, I can transpose it. Right, where was it? It was here maybe. right? And then at the end, I can change the length, right? And again, right click, make triad. I can choose the first inversion, let's say, right? And then again, just take things up like this. I didn't want. Right, and like this, edit things, and again, you can create longer sequences, and it is polyphonic. And also here you can record external signals, like from a MIDI keyboard, for example, if you want to enter notes with a keyboard. But there are two things here to keep in mind. Firstly, we don't have an additional CV output for velocity or modulation. So this you will have to do externally, and we don't have also built-in patterns or songs. And for this, there's a need for an additional module also from Squinky Labs. It's called the Squinky Labs 4on4. Right, this can expand the functionality of the SIG++ with patterns. It's even a sort of a clip launcher, but again, it's not built in the main module. The next module is the Entrian Timeline. This is a commercial module, but as you will soon see, it's quite deep and can take care of all your sequencing needs. So if I click this screen here, we get a new screen that you can move around. We get the whole timeline. I can change the length or change the bits. Let's say in this case, I want this to be 16, right? So we have a longer sequence. The first track I'm going to use for melody. So I'm going to click here those lines here, and then I can name this melody. I can choose the maximum channels of polyphony. Of course, this is also polyphonic, right? And then I click here the empty space, and there are different types of clips that I can add. So in this case, again, I want this to be a melody. So I'm going to add a melody clip, right? And then go inside the clip, and we get a piano roll, right? And now again, I can enter notes. Right, let's do, for example, C. Right, let's do something like this here. Of course, I can enter also longer notes. Right, something like this. Right. This is enough, let's say, for now. More things that we have here, we have probability. Of course, we have also velocity. So if, for example, I change here, let's say I have this little line here, I want each note to have its own probability, right? So I just click the note, and we have different options. We have note play probability. I'm going to change this, for example, to 50%, and also velocity accuracy, let's say to about 70%. I click OK. And now if I hit enter on different notes, and everything is written here, and there is a whole manual also. If I hit enter now on different notes, it will just copy those settings. Right, so now 3 of them have probability, and again we have also velocity. So for example, the first one I can have with full velocity, then maybe this one a bit less, and this one maybe with velocity accuracy also. Right, so we can enter notes like this. Now I can go back to the song, and again we have 16 beats here. But if I just hover above this, hit Ctrl C, I can just paste this with Ctrl V, right? So now I have here another clip, and I can go in and make some changes. Again, let's say this will be a bit something like this, a bit higher. Again, this is polyphonic, so I can enter also chords. So let's say here I would like to have something like this, let's say. Right, and then maybe here, let's go with this here. Right, and again make some changes. Remove note. Right, so now we have this. Right, with clips and everything, and velocity and probability. Right, so this was the melody, right? Of course, it's deeper than this, but this was a quick view of the melody. I have here also a drone with a VCO unit going through a filter and a delay. Right, and now I can add also a modulation track. So again, I'm going into this window. Track 2 will be, let's say, modulation. Right, and then again I enter on an empty space and we have here CV gate, control voltage drawn as a continuous line and a gate. Right, in this case I want this to be in the length of the whole sequence here, so I can just stretch this. Right, and then I click it and then we have the whole sequence here. This will work also with polyphony, so you see we have 16 channels, each of them can be different modulation or gates. Right, and what I'm doing here, I'm using the split module to split this once to the filter and once to the mix of the delay. Right, so if I go inside here, channel 1 can be, if I click those lines here, filter, channel 2 can be delay, right? And now I can start adding modulation. Again, things are written here, you can have different shapes, you will see this in a second. Right, but let's say I just add, let's say something like this here. Right, maybe like this, and then maybe here it will go even higher. Right? So we have this modulation, and again with the J, for example, I can change the shape, also with S, change the curves. Right, so we have also modulation tracks. Again, for the delay, this will control the mix. So let's say I want this to be, here will be a bit up, and then here just a tiny bit, let's say. Right, and you can see also the filter modulation. So maybe I will make this here. Right, so now we have filter modulation, we have delay modulation. Right, so we have melody, we have modulation, and there is even a drum track. So again, I'm going to change the name here to drums, and then click on an empty space, and this will be a drum clip. Right, in this case I would like to loop just this section, so I can add here also loop markers, right, from here to here. Right, and now I can concentrate on this section. Also, this will work with polyphony. In this case I'm splitting this once for the gates, right, I have 4 different drums here, and once for velocity. So you get also velocity per drum or per step. Right, and then we have the 4 voices. The first one is the kick. Right, the second one will be the closed hat. Then we have here open hat. You can already see how powerful this sequencer is. And then we have here clap. Right, and now I can just start adding, right, drum hits. And also here we have different options. For example, we have, of course, probability. So for example, I want to add probability. I just click this. We have node probability, accent probability, velocity, of course. So let's say I want here another hit with lower velocity. Right here, another hit with lower velocity. Let's have here clap. Right, we even have ratcheting. So for example, I can add here another hi-hat with ratcheting. Right? And I can have start velocity and end velocity. And I don't want this all the time. I can add probability to this. Right, and then again return to the song, and then Control C to copy, and then I just paste this 1, 2, 3, and 4. I get rid of the loop, so now I can listen to everything together. Right, make some changes. For example, here I would like to have another clap and another, let's say, another kick drum. Right, and then here another, and the last one, a few more hits here, let's say 3 with lower velocity, a bit more velocity, right, something like this, and again kick, and maybe here another one with ratcheting, right, maybe this one without probability, right? So now we have a whole sequence, and again this is the drum track. And of course we also have songs here. So for example, I can copy this song, go to song number 2, paste this, again make some changes. Maybe this one I can bring over here, I can copy this here, right, just make some changes. I don't know, maybe have some chords here, right, something like this. And then here maybe again copy and make some changes. I can select everything, move up, right, move up here also in pitch, right, and then maybe I can just, let's say, remove with the right click, remove those drums here. Right, so now we have 2 songs. We have song 1, right, and we have song 2. And now of course we can switch between them, and there are different ways of switching. In the right click menu you can choose between pitch, so C3 will be song 1, C#3 will be song 2, and so on. You can also trigger non-empty, you can trigger a random song. I'm going to trigger the next non-empty song and use a clock division of 16 to make this switch for me. Right, and let's just reset everything. Right, and then we have a song. Again, you can create whole arrangements with this, because each track can be a different instrument. If you want drums, if you want melodies, if you want modulation. Right, this gets much deeper than this. Also, you have also alias clips if you want. You can load MIDI clips if it's melody or drums. Also here, of course, you can record external sequences, right? You have here the whole recording section. Again, if you want to use a MIDI keyboard to enter notes or record random modulation or random sequences and create whole songs with them. And actually this module, this Entrian Timeline, comes in a whole collection of sequencers. You get the Entrian Melody, Entrian CV, and Entrian Drummer. So if you want to use the individual sequencers for each task, instead of the timeline, you prefer to have different sequencers or just to use them in different projects. So again, this is a commercial collection, but you get all 4 sequencers. And again, this is quite deep, but that was it for today. I hope this was somewhat helpful. Thank you for watching. Cheers.